Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. You know, a lot of people talk about the harm that mainstream media has done, and right away your brain goes to fake news. And that's totally valid, but I think we have to take it a step further and really talk about the effects of what the mainstream media is doing with their constant fake news, fake outrage, hysteria pipeline. You know, I think you could argue over the last 10 years, we've basically witnessed a full-blown emotional collapse of a good chunk, maybe close to half of the country. We've essentially watched the modern left adopt this sort of new age secular religion, the cult of leftism, the cult of woke, and it's clearly a religion of hate where they've placed Donald Trump as the devil. President Trump is not just a regular politician to these people. No, he's some sort of supernatural evil force that has to be constantly talked about and obsessed over, schemed against, resisted. They've created this whole cult of conspiracy theories and cult of fear. And so, of course, if we're going to talk about this, you know, maybe I could actually simplify it. If we're going to talk about Trump derangement syndrome, then of course we got to start at the source. With patient friggin' zero, that's Rosie O'Donnell. She was Trump deranged before the term was even coined. And actually, we've got an update from her therapist of all people. Let's talk about Trump derangement syndrome, shall we? We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this headline right over here. Apparently, Rosie O'Donnell's own therapist told her to, quote, detach from Trump for 2 days. Just see if you could do it for 2 days. And according to sources, she couldn't even make it 2 hours. You know, what was the purpose of isolating yourself, of casting yourself in exile in Ireland? As the Washington Post writes, Rosie O'Donnell's life in exile. What's the point of disappearing because the orange man's so bad, and then you're chronically online and obsessed with everything that he does? Can't even last 2 friggin' hours without seething at the orange man and his latest shenanigans. Yeah, but you know, I think this is the perfect story to kind of set the tone, because this is Trump derangement syndrome in its purest form. And it's actually a very interesting phenomenon because it's not organic at all. Of course, we know it's a widespread phenomenon. There's millions of people who suffer from this mentally debilitating disease. But you know, they didn't catch this disease from a Chinese mosquito. No, I don't think mosquito soup was involved here in spreading this virus. No, this virus is totally engineered. The source comes from the media, from Hollywood, from big tech, from the algorithms, especially before X bought Twitter. I mean, I used to rant about this almost every single day, especially as I'm monitoring my boomer parents and some of the other boomers around them. They're not exactly tech savvy, and you could just tell on your phone's curated news bulletins, on every social media algorithm with all the trending tabs, the entire media apparatus, the entire thing was one big organism that was flooding people's feeds with the most wildest of Trump deranged conspiracy theories. Every week it was a new big bombshell, phony scandal, insider source, a leak, a whistleblower, a major accusation, a lawsuit, a case, a criminal investigation, a multi-year FBI-led coup. And people were being bombarded with this stuff from all these supposed authoritative sources that they had trusted, all over their phones, their emails, just getting notifications and pop-ups. Donald Trump works directly for Vladimir Putin. And you know, the fact is that some people have the ability to critically think better than others. You got a lot of people who snapped out of it, or they understand what's going on. They understand the partisan games that the media are playing, and they kind of just accept it as a, let's call it like a necessary evil in their mind. It's just politics. But then, of course, you got the diehards. You got the people who can't process these false realities that are being created here. No, they just buy the headline hook, line, and sinker, and they get hit enough times. They get enough fake news Trump deranged booster shots, and all of a sudden, you get some media-created abomination. All of a sudden, you get people who devote their entire lives to this anti-Trump cultural phenomenon, of course. You have a massive cultural sphere that's pushing it and reinforcing it every single day. Every celebrity, late-night talk show, all the Marvel actors, oh, Donald Trump is literally Hitler, bro. Every washed-up comedian pushing the same lowest-hanging fruit garbage comedy. Ooh, orange man, small hands. And of course, you got the bandwagoners who can't think for themselves, no internal monologue, it seems, who just join the resistance. And you know, you could think at the back of your mind what a ridiculous phenomenon that is. You could scoff at it, get some chuckles, laugh, move on. What a bunch of pink-haired freakazoids engaging in whatever Antifa voodoo ritual they're up to this time. And while it is funny, at the end of the day, this is not something to be dismissed. This is a phenomenon that's been unleashed, that the worst of the worst are clearly weaponizing and taking advantage of, and it's going to lead to disaster. And you know, it's crazy because I say that as if it hasn't already happened. We're already in the disaster zone. Charlie Kirk was murdered in September, and so you see what what this deranged environment is producing. The way people are being radicalized with this non-stop IV drip of anti-conservative hysteria. You know, actually I got a clip that went viral 2 days ago that I think is going to kind of help me make a point here.
Dude, this is evil to do to me. Very evil. No reason to feel bad for this guy. But yeah, okay, I don't want to get too into it, okay? Don't want to get too woke. Don't want to get too woke, but I mean, how much, it's just like realistically, man, how much sympathy can you possibly have for someone who actively like spent his life going and trying to take away and advocating for basic human rights to not go to gay people? Like, he advocated for like gay people not being allowed to get married. So it's like realistic, like after you hear something like that, I just don't know how you can be, I don't know, like ever sympathetic. Like like, come on, man.
I mean, listen to that. You're basically hearing somebody justify political assassination, or at least it's very easy to assume that they feel Charlie Kirk's murder was justified, or it certainly doesn't bother them because he was so dangerous, because he openly opposed gay marriage. Listen to that. A perfectly acceptable, perfectly benign, just counter-social position is enough for them to feel absolutely no remorse in your political assassination. It's insane, and it represents, I think, the whole. This is what we're dealing with on the left. They're being told their rights are being taken away. It's 1940s Germany every single day. They're being bombarded with over and over and over again. And it gets to a point where you just become radicalized. You become so part of the left-wing mission that I guess your reality gets warped to an extent where a president wanting smaller government, less foreign involvement, more American manufacturing, less taxes, a secure border, that now becomes 1940s Germany. What was basic classic liberalism in a lot of ways is now Adolf Hitlerianism, and it justifies Donald Trump being sent to prison for life, impeached. So many people wish death upon him after that failed assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. They truthfully believe that he deserves it because he's so evil, they've convinced themselves, because he wants lower taxes. Like, just think for a second how deranged they are. We're living in a fascist state. This president wants to give us more rights and more freedom. It's idiotic. And yet the media, the entire leftist apparatus, just feeds into it. Hashtag no kings. Trump's a Gestapo on the street. He's now a war criminal, bombing those poor Venezuelan fishermen. He's disappearing people on the streets. They're feeding into the hysteria over and over and over again. They're warping people's minds. They're ruining people's lives, ruining people's mental health. And in some cases, it has clearly disastrous consequences. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.